Hey you! Welcome back to the Game Room. With the first YouTube poll officially under the belt, the chosen winner was my views on modern gaming and collecting in general. Since this is essentially a channel about collecting, I'll save that for last and dive right into modern day gaming. Being 42 is nothing really interesting, but where I fall on the video game timeline as a 42-year-old is. I've essentially been on the crazy gaming train almost literally my whole life. Having teethed on Pong, spent my impressionable years on a Commodore 64 and a Nintendo, and now witnessing many of the then sci-fi elements actually being real has been an incredible journey. But journeys have bumpy sections, and every past bumpy section has been easygoing when compared to the destination gaming seems headed. It's a fear I've had since Facebook first introduced gaming apps, and that is that video games have become disposable incomes, meaning companies will find new and inventive ways to take your income on the same game before disposing of it. This trend is more prevalent in multiplayer games, and at the angle at which I'm coming from has been dubiously labeled as games as services, a service like water or electricity. The difference being I actually can't live without those, but I could leave games at any moment. I've never really been into multiplayer at a basic level. Aside from playing Halo with friends, that is, actually being able to lean over and poke them friends, and Mass Effect 3's multiplayer because I didn't have to talk to anyone and we all knew what we had to do, I just haven't been in it. Speaking of Mass Effect, I was insanely close to completing the entire online challenge set for ME3, except for some level plays and the immortal double lone wolf on gold. I'll never go back to try it because I know the day I do, and finally do it, EA will shut the servers off before I can screen cap it, which is where this disposable income problem comes into play. We are no longer gamers who consume, we are seen as consumers who game. There is no need to deliver us a final product for keeps. It's now just a conveyor belt of bits and pieces shoveled to us so as long as we keep dropping coins into the machine. I never really had a problem with season passes, and while asinine, I understood the idea behind the thankfully now dead multiplayer pass for used game purchases. But these new trends, turning notable games into financial grinding machines where damn near everything is for sale and what isn't for sale is a billboard, is terrifying. A perfect example of this is Fallout 76, whose collectibles shop is so hilariously overpriced in both in-game and real-world currency that it would take forever to unlock it naturally. Or I could pay $12 for a suit? $3 for an emote? Get the f*** out of here. Fighting games are the most notorious for this lately, though any game classified as a battle royale can jump right in. I love Dead or Alive and Street Fighter, except I gave up on both of them, at least their current and future iterations. Dead or Alive 5, last round on PS4, which I was going to buy until I realized it had some $600 in costume DLC, and Street Fighter, which was already terrible for its insanely overpriced unlockable characters and stages, was only further ruined with their on-character advertising. Funny enough, this problem solved itself when I realized that many of the combos I used in Street Fighter 5 also worked in every other Street Fighter game I've ever played. You know, the ones with 33 characters and all the stages and costumes already unlocked. When you realize you have no need for a visual upgrade, it's amazing how much money you can save on your hobby, which is not good for the companies. That's not to say it's all bad. With fantastic single-player games like Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War that have little to no extra content to worry about, there's still hope for the industry. If it weren't for games like Mass Effect, the reboot of Tomb Raider, and the previously mentioned games, I could see the AAA side of gaming become non-existent in the single-player genre. There are several other factors that could be discussed, like the loss of choice and variety within certain genres, I'm looking at UEA, the fall of brick-and-mortar stores, and the like, but that's for a later time. Let's get into collecting. I'll start this section off with a request from YouTube viewer GPermy1993. He asks, or she asks, I'd like to hear your comment on the increasing popularity of retro gaming and collecting, the price spikes we've seen over the past few years, and how you think video game collecting might evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. Whew. Heavy-hitting questions, with answers that may not be the ones you'd want to hear. Let me tackle these in order. Retro gaming and collecting will continue expanding for a while, as each next group of gamers that consider their previous consoles retro will get the nostalgia bug. There were more gamers for the Super NES than the NES, and more for the PlayStation 2 than the PlayStation, and so on. Roughly 20 years is the going age for nostalgia to hit hard, which means right now PlayStation 1 is king, though not as financially draining as, say, the Sega Saturn or the 3DO. 20 years from now, you'll see PlayStation 4 games start going for crazy amounts of money, especially any of the Game of the Year editions that are 100% on disc with no extra DLC to be had. The catch there is that there will be a lot of title screen simulators and incomplete legacies for everything else. This consistent growth in physical collecting is eventually going to arc, however, as each new year brings more and more emulation projects that make it simpler for the casual gamer to access old favorites. I firmly believe that the PlayStation hasn't seen a real financial spike in its library thanks to how available its software has been. One of the facts I was going to use in a possible PlayStation Classic episode is that half the games on the Classic were readily available for play either by physical copies on the PS1 or PS2 or PlayStation Store digital versions, with both being available on PS3. It's extremely hard to yearn for something when it's readily available at a moment's notice for 20 years. The Sega Saturn, on the other hand, holy donkey paws. If you're a Sega fan and was looking forward to snagging some Saturn goodness, save your wallet and your insanity. While it's partially understandable how smaller print runs like Panzer Dragoon Saga are going for $600 or more alongside the typically sought-after role-playing games, watching Mega Man 8 go for over $300 and Power Slave hit $200 is insane. Power Slave is roughly a $30 game on the PlayStation. If I had the choice of the Sega Saturn version, which is admittedly superior, or the PlayStation version and eating for a month, I'm taking the latter. In the earlier days of collecting, and I'm regretfully old enough to say that and mean it, price spikes were more refined and much slower paced. This all boils down to there not being an internet. You didn't have eBay, you just had garage sales and flea markets. Information was strictly word of mouth or what you may have heard in the local news or convention, or even a fanzine. Today's environment is exponentially more toxic for a variety of reasons, most of it due to false fronts and the insane speed at which information, real or not, now travels. This isn't helped by a modern gamer growing up in a world of where flash, rather than substance, is king. Here's how the modern day price spike happens. A random YouTuber or two will make a video, with the thumbnail having an idiotically posed picture of them with an exaggerated claim or saying whatever this week's stack of games are hidden gems. You can substitute that with games you've never heard of, or the ever popular most expensive games ever made. Now, a huge viewer base sees this, which include those wonderful scalper types. Most of the viewers now go and track down the game for whatever they can snag it at, and the scalpers grab up all the rest. From there, you then have those people that bought the game doing their, oh my god, rare game I got, look at me! Which in turn is seen by their audience, which is also made up of the scalpers and the viewers. The catch here is that these folks are now late to the party, and now they're going to be paying the higher prices set by the first set of scalpers. This continues until you get down to the casual folks just looking to sell stuff, and rather than look at eBay's sold page to see what it's really worth, they just look at a page full of overinflated buy it nows and then list theirs at the same price or higher because they believe they have a better copy of it. This cycle continues till the game is no longer feasibly possible or sellable and eventually crashes or dies off into obscurity thanks to its circulation being culled. It's important to note here too that folks that do hidden gem videos means that they probably usually do more than one video since that's what their viewers are looking for. The truly obscure great games are pretty thin, which means at one point they're going to have to do more videos and claim something else is hidden even if it isn't. And by this time in 10 years, every game is a hidden gem because they had to keep their viewers at bay. As I stated earlier, the next 10 years will be an interesting time. With the 360 and PS3 entering their true twilight years on retail shelves, this will be the true measure of where collecting is headed. Not just for physical copies, but digital games as well. I've made the case before where a full PS3 set will feature literally unplayable games like Warhawk, Mag, and SOCOM. All the online multiplayer servers and DLC servers will be lost when they are decommissioned. Games that were digital only will be completely gone. Some are already lost due to time thanks to licensing issues like Scott Pilgrim and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Or patches that were needed to make sure a game actually ran, gone. It's going to be a very broken scene for the next generation of collectors. How that will affect the PS2 era and earlier is anyone's guess. While I never truly embraced it before, now is the right time to get into emulation for older software. Even if it's just backing up legitimate copies of your own collection, do it. I recently bought a 2TB hard drive so I can start making sure I have backups of this whole damn room. It may not be a Mad Max future, but it's time to start planning like it is. If you have an older modern gen console you haven't played in a while, hook it up and throw in every disc you have and make sure you have all patches and all the DLC you want before it's gone. I did that myself, and out of 5 games, had a gig's worth of DLC to download. And that should cover everything in questions. Thanks, G. Permy. On a more personal level, my own collecting mannerisms have shifted greatly in the past few years. Where before it was an ongoing journey, it's now more a focus on landing the plane. At the age of 42, there are so many things I want to do with this collection, which includes finally finishing it. Since libraries like the TurboGrafx, and now thankfully the Sega Saturn, are full sets without variants, I've been able to start enjoying them to the fullest. I played through 4 Turbo Duo games in the past year, which is more than I've had in the last 5 years. Hence the Twitter post. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the PlayStation, and it's a library that I honestly, wholeheartedly want to play through every last game. Not just play them, but document them, screen cap and video capture them, bring you all the information I can about them. That takes time, and time is something quickly disappearing these days, and I don't even have kids. That need, that desire to play all of them, is something that I feel sets me apart from other YouTubers and collectors for that matter. I've had past colleagues turn their incredibly respectful collections into actual museums, both self-contained or part of a bigger organization. In the last year, I've seen present-day folks already turning their collections into traveling museum pieces, or at least having the plans to eventually do it. I will not be one of those people, at least not until my deathbed. It should be stated that this is merely objective observation and personal opinion. While museums are fun to see, they're essentially a mostly hands-off experience. Museums are where objects go to die, to retire, to be gawked at, and then nothing more. The games in this room are a library and will always be a library, a treasure trove of experiences to play, live, and share with adventures created within. In some literal cases, over and over and over and over again. I look forward to playing and enjoying games no one else would, giving games a chance that were left to rot, and enjoying all the games I have already beaten once more to flesh out their game pages on GameRave.com. In fact, like I did with my TurboGrafx, I printed out the full list of PSX games so I can track them as I finish them. I already marked down ones that I know I finished years ago, so I can skip them for now and return once the other games have been beaten and finished. There is no greater thing you can do for a video game than play it. And finish it to a degree. With that, I'm starting to ramble, and there are better things to do, like play video games. The day I recorded this, it was snowy and freezing outside, but it seems to have warmed up a little bit, but it's still really cold outside. So if you're in a snowstorm or it's cold outside, stay inside, stay warm, and finish that game you haven't touched in years. Your library is waiting. Go play. I'll see you next episode, guys. Take care.